Hey there.
Hey, how's it going?
Going okay. How are you?
Good. I'm glad my headphones are working. There's been so many interviews where they're like, "What? I can't." I'm like, "Shit. What did I do?"
I hope mine's coming through okay too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can hear you fine.
Good. Huh. So you doing okay?
Good. Yeah. Just hanging out. I had to make some more edits on this next script, but it was like
Mhm.
just something super picky that I could fix in 10 minutes, but then like it had this little ripple effect and I'm like, "Okay, well, like it was something to do with like a house that I had described as like a small suburban house. But
Yeah.
then they're like, no, it needs to be more isolated. It has to be bigger because they rent the basement a lot. I'm like, okay. And
Mhm.
then they're like, what about like an old Victorian house in the woods? And I'm like, okay, but through the whole script, like one of the biggest things is that they're moving to a suburban house. So then I have to like go through and like, but
Yeah.
that was like what I did today.
So Dawn of the Beast has been making its waves on VOD. Tell me a little bit about how you and Bruce Wemple came up with that.
Yeah, so he and I first, well, we had worked together on Monstrous, another one that I wrote, a Bigfoot one.
Mhm.
And then he did a Wendigo movie called The Retreat. So we went through the same distribution company for this one, and they were kind of like open to, do you guys want to try to combine both monsters in this one? So based on that, we already kind of had the parameters for what we were allowed to do. So then together we like came up with this idea and he kind of did this vague outline for the plot and then I got to go through and write everything and then we kind of just bounced it back and forth until we came up with this epic battle between Bigfoot and Wendigo that's just been going on for ages.
Yeah, like fuck Kong versus Godzilla. We got Bigfoot and the Wendigo.
Right,
Uh,
exactly.
uh, well, I should have said thank you already for doing this.
Of course, thank you.
And just to give some background, like, how did you get into the film industry, writing, acting?
Yeah, I've actually been acting kind of forever. I grew up in Massachusetts and I used to do the theater circuit there.
Hmm.
So even just back in elementary school, like, we were playing like a blind child and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then once I got to college, I went to school in upstate New York, and that's where I met Bruce and then a couple other filmmakers.
Mhm.
And I had kind of always wanted to act on film, but the college I was going to only had a theater program. So when I started just bumping into people, I was like, oh, people are doing this around here. And then I got into that, and I much prefer doing that over theater. And then in college, also, they didn't have any writing classes either. So I started just kind of writing on my own and I watch movies constantly. So, and then I started reading scripts, writing from there. And then that's kind of where it took off. It was just about making different connections with like local filmmakers and then seeing where those went.
Right. Hmm. And I gotta say, I loved Dawn of the Beast.
Thank you.
It was probably one of the most fun times in a horror movie I've had in a long time, and I watch
uh,
them quite often. So
yeah.
um,
Excellent.
it just had like it's a fun kind of campy setup, sure, but it had like a really palpable atmosphere to it. So what was it like on set, kind of trying to create that while still maintaining like a fun factor?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. I think the hardest thing, both with writing for and acting for me, is just staying in tune with a certain tone and completely understanding what you're making.
Mhm.
So with this one, definitely the script also went through a lot of different stages. I think when I began to write it, we were leaning way more into the campier angle, and then we were like, you know what, we need to scare people too. We got to tone it down. So we worked on that a lot beforehand, and Bruce and I made sure we were very on the same plane for how campy we're going, how scary we're going. And then he actually got to set, I think, a week earlier to shoot a lot of the Wendigo Bigfoot fight scene. So by the time that all the actors and I got to set, he had already just quickly edited a rough version of this fight and put this like insane soundtrack that kind of sounds like the music that plays during the fight now. So we showed it to all the actors, and he's like, if you're worried what the tone is, like, this is what it's leading up to in the movie.
Yeah.
So we were all kind of like, oh, okay, I totally get it. And then, but yeah, obviously, it was hard because we kept saying drive-in movie. We're making like a drive-in movie. So sure, we're going to have like scarier scenes and everything, but everything's going to kind of be amped up and just stay in that fun tone. And I think everybody had fun making it, which can hopefully show through.
Mm-hmm. And the whole cast did a really nice job. You had worked together with quite a few of them before. I think it was Lee John Woods. He even commented on my YouTube video as well.
Oh,
yeah.
He's so sweet. I love him.
Yeah. And the movie just combined a lot of elements, both from like your previous Bigfoot movie, but also, The Retreat, and had a little bit of an Evil Dead influence in there too, I felt like, which I think made it something even more unique than it already was. So, and tell me about Lily, like writing her. I know it's weird writing for yourself. Lily was a badass though.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always try so hard when I'm writing to just pretend I'm not playing the part because I don't want to be biased or anything. And especially with this one, just because how everything was with flying, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. And I was just thinking, like, the movie was a go before we had the casting, obviously. So that helped a lot to have it in my head. Like, I might not even be playing her. Who knows? So I try really hard to do that. And with this one especially, I did try to give, since it was such an ensemble thing and not a ton of room for character development for the majority, I think I was trying so hard to just give little moments to every character, like just something that they could enjoy instead of being killed off in 3 seconds or something. So yeah, I was definitely not trying to hog any of the screen time or anything, but I think, I think it works the best when I just pretend I'm not acting in it. And then I show up to set and I just happen to have written it.
Yeah, separate yourself from it. Be fair to
exactly.
the rest of them. Mm-hmm. So I know you said you weren't there for like the big fight scene, but like, what was it like for the guy playing Bigfoot, doing the power moves and stuff like that and stunt work?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, I wasn't there for that. So when I wrote it, I purposely kept a lot of the action vague. So for that one, I think the line was that, something about Bigfoot showing up and then he, kicks ass one by one with the Wendigos, which is very vague. And then, I think they had a lot of fun though. And so much of the action was also determined by our makeup guy, Jared Blood, who was amazing because especially even with every death or any gore in the scripts, I would write pretty vague. I would still say what happened, just keep it vague, say no, everything's going to change. And then Bruce took it over to Jared and he's like, okay, what can we actually do like with the budget that we have? And so they kind of went through the checklist of everything. So even with the fight, it's like, okay, if we do this, we're going to need fake blood coming out here, blah, blah, blah. But I think they had a blast, I'm assuming. And that Wendigo suit is not an easy one to maneuver in. So Bruce has used it for the retreat as well. And it's the same suit. And you actually have to like lube up with Vaseline, I think, your entire body to get into it. And our poor sound guy Nate Van Dusen, who's the composer, and he's great. Like occasionally he'll have to get in it. And I remember this set, he was like, I am not, like, I will come on and I will work on it, but I am not being the Wendigo again. And then he did eventually have to get in. But I think that duty was also shared with Grant, who plays the kind of backwoods guy, and a couple other people. But everybody had fun. So.
Yeah, I gotta compliment the production value, though. I mean, you guys made the most of it. It looked good. It was nicely shot. Makeup, I thought, was really nice too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just have to work with what you have, and I think this one was great because we just through Jared, we finally had an opportunity to show a lot more. with the monsters and the gore and everything. And Bruce is great at finding little tricks to shoot everything and make it look a lot fancier than it is. But yeah, I think we really lucked out with him, just like, arm ripping gags and everything. So I think a lot of things has to go to him for that.
This goes to show you don't need like 80 or $200 million to make a good movie. So
I know. Yeah. Just work with what you have. And
yeah. I mean, it'd be nice, but
I know. I mean, I think it's great, especially with that area, upstate New York. There's so many people working in film who are talented, and there's just a little less work around there, so it's easier to make connections and form this little film family. And then you get all these talented people without like Hollywood prices.
And I have to talk about it because I made a point to watch Monstrous before I talked to you.
Yeah.
And you may have seen my post kind of blowing up about it a little bit.
I know, thank you. I was like, oh.
I loved it. Two different animals with Monstrous and Dawn of the Beast.
Right.
But like you said, that one is more like a kind of fun creature feature, and Monstrous wasn't really about the monsters. It was more like a character study, kind of thriller type thing.
Yeah.
I adored it. You were terrific.
Thank you.
I think award-worthy performance.
Thank you.
You're honestly at the top of my favorites now on screen.
Oh, I appreciate it. I don't know how to take compliments, so I'm just gonna.
It's like
I appreciate it.
I love people like Catherine Isabel. Your Danielle Harris's, Heather.
Yeah.
Barbara Crampton, but you're right there with them now for me.
I'm just gonna blush and disappear.
And although work you do with writing too, it's really stellar. So don't
thank
think
you.
of yourself. You have a real good.
Oh, thank you. Just gonna be quiet and awkward.
But tell me about some of the inspiration for that, because it was a much more intimate story.
Yeah, it's weird. That actually came from, so I'm not good writing literary fiction at all, but I attempted 2 years ago. And it actually it out from a story where we filmed it. And I made a screenplay out of that, but both of those literally had no monster. It was nothing to do with any monsters. It was purely this psychological cat and mouse kind of thriller, and with the romance between the two women and everything. Kind of more of a mystery. And then Bruce also liked it. So we began pitching that through my sales agent friends in LA. But a lot of his contacts were saying there was this big market for creature features, especially for a lower budget. And my sales agent was like, is there any way you could put a monster in this? And at first I was like, what are you talking? This is like a moody, like thriller. And then, but Bruce and I talked about it, and I was like, no, you know what? Okay, we'll find a way to make it work. And I started to try to come up with like an original monster, and like, what could we do just with prosthetics, blah, blah, blah. And then Bruce was the one, I hate admitting it, he was the one to suggest Bigfoot. Wow. And when I first heard, I was like, what are you talking? Like, you hear Bigfoot, you do, I think a silly connotation comes up because, so many movies, and it's like, oh. But then I took a second and, I started actually researching and everything. And, obviously he's got this strong following. And I mean, I have people on Instagram following me, like actually out looking for him in the woods and everything. And it was just so interesting. And I'm like, oh my God, there's all these different twists on, how people feel about him, and how most people feel more of like, maybe he's a protector instead of an antagonist. And I just realized it was such a cool way to take something like Bigfoot that some people might hear and go, what the hell? And then turn it on its head and make it this kind of complicated, emotional journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just happened to come into a Bigfoot movie.
It's kind of the nature of a lot of the Bigfoot legends. If there's just one of them, then he's all on his own, so he'd probably want to keep to himself. Or if there's more than one, then there's still very few. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Bruce's dad was actually turned out to be this huge Bigfoot fan. And in Monstrous, there is we have a what's it called, a bulletin board with lots of flyers and newspaper clippings, and some of those were actual newspaper clippings that his dad had taken from just years ago collecting, so we got to use those, which was fun.
Mm-hmm. I loved Sylvia's story. I thought she had a really nice arc.
Thank you.
If I didn't say I already loved your performance, I was really engaged, I was invested. So tell me what you thought, just like creating that character, and what made you want to portray it on screen.
Yeah, I don't know why it is. Like, I've actually had to fight against this urge when I write. I'm just really interested in people who are kind of struggling with either like a long time guilt for some reason, even though it's not necessarily like valid that they should be feeling guilty, and just kind of a lot of inner struggles and trying to find some kind of I don't know, free themselves from guilt or something. And I think there's so much to play with that. And with every horror movie, my favorite ones always come from like some kind of sadness or grief or something, or guilt. It's just, and I don't know, I just thought, just kind of a personification of just this horrible guilt and trying to find answers. And it's almost her just trying to clean up the mess in the first place. And like, okay, let me find my friend, and then this will be great, and then I'll be good again after all this bad stuff happened. I don't know, there's something that just struck me about that. And also just in terms of her and the other lead, Alex, played by Rachel Finninger. I think I always love just finding the line between what makes somebody, good or evil. And I just think it's not black and white ever. And it's so interesting to kind of delve into that. And obviously it's very easy to look at somebody and be like, they're evil, but that's just always something that's intrigued me. And there's even this book I have, I think it's called Where Evil Lives. And it talks about the scale, almost like a Kinsey scale, but not for sexuality, and it's kind of like measures people by their empathy and everything. And it's like, okay, but even if somebody does have a lot less empathy, like they might not be doing things to attack somebody. They might just be doing things because that's the rational thing for them to do. And I just think the psychology is very interesting. Mm-hmm. That's my long-winded answer. I rambled a little.
Oh, you're good by all means.
Yeah.
There's good and bad in everyone. So I thought you did a really good job kind of towing the line with, Rachel's character, Alex, because I wasn't sure if it was going to go the other way or not. But then you guys had a really nice chemistry on screen too, and it was going much better earlier in the movie. So I was kind of like forward either way.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
And I don't know, just like talk about, I know it was a smaller production, but like what was it like? There were quite violent scenes though between you two, like the fight scene, and at first I thought you were dead about twice.
Yeah. The old fake out.
Talk about the physicality of that. It looked pretty real. Anyway, it looked that way.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun to do. And anyone who knows me could tell you that I'm extremely not coordinated at all. So shooting all that stuff, I'm like, oh no. And I know writing it, and like I do deep down know I'm going to play the part, and I still write this stuff, and I'm like, whatever. But the most fun part of that fight scene was the breakaway bottles, because at one point I get a bottle hit on my head, and it always is fine. I've gotten it a couple times before, and for that scene, we just had the 2 bottles, so you only get 2 shots to do it, and it's so low budget. We're only buying 2 of them. So it's like, don't flinch or you ruin the entire shot. We have to figure out what else to do. So I think I did a good job not flinching, but the second one hit me so bad on the ear. It was just hurt so bad. And then I think we had a couple of whoopsies when I was getting hit with a rock, and it was a foam rock, but when I got hit, the hand kept hitting my face. So I'm like, it doesn't matter that the rock's foam. I'm being like punched, but we worked through it. We got it done.
And there's like the clothing iron or whatever it was that was you used to burn the side of her face.
Oh yeah, yeah, the teapot. Yeah.
Yeah, that
That
teapot.
was great.
Excuse me.
Yeah. That was fun.
Hmm. So, like, are you a fan of horror movies, or is it something you just kind of happen to walk into? You know?
No, I love horror movies. They're my favorite. Yeah, I like all sorts of horror movies, like even the low budget ones or whatever. Like if I'm looking for a movie, I just go to the horror genre or Shudder. I love Shudder. I check that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's hard because I mean I'm sure you know too. It's just so hard to find one you like nowadays because there's so few. And then I don't know, but I did just see this really weird indie one from Romania. I don't know if you heard about it. It's a Romanian found footage horror movie called Be My Cat, a film for Anne. And have you?
No.
It's this bizarre one where it's this just very creepy guy in Romania, and he just has this camera, and he's really like just really wants Anne Hathaway to be in a movie, and he decided he's going to be a director. So the entire movie, he's just like trying to talk to Anne Hathaway through this camera and just doing these horrible things. And the guy was genius though, because he's just some guy from Romania, and he's almost doing like a one-man show the entire time because there's no possible way they wrote that all. Like he's just talking in circles for just like an hour and a half, and it was amazing. But yeah, I love horror.
Anne Hathaway doesn't appear, does she?
She does not. Spoiler. Sorry.
So, like, what are some of your favorite horror movies or like inspirations in the genre?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I love 28 Days Later a lot. Just because it's so emotional. I really, really like when you can tie it into emotions. And this weird Australian one called Lake Mungo, I really liked. And again, kind of a downer, but then I actually like Babadook a lot. I know that's either like people love it or hate it, but I liked Babadook. Oh, and The Thing, of course. Everybody loves The Thing, I think. Right?
Yeah. I was just talking about that one today, actually, with my fiance, who I said was named Lily as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah,
she's finally settled down from it because she was kind of like affected by the dog stuff. And
I know. Oh my god. Yeah, I every movie I watch, there's this website called Does the Dog Die? Have you heard of that?
Wait, there's a site. Check.
Yeah, so you go on, so because I love horror, but I love animals like probably more. So yeah, so I always go on this website where doesthedogdie.com, and it'll tell you, it goes through literally like every animal. It's like, does a chicken die? Yes or no? Does a dog die? Yes or no? And then people comment like what happens. So I totally empathize with that. But yeah, the thing is harsh with the dog stuff.
It's like, kill all the people you want, but you leave that dog alone.
I know.
But yeah, she really liked it. It's within my like, however many favorites I have by now. But,
yeah.
So do you want to do like another Little by Pete movie, or are you just gonna stick to horror for a while?
I don't know. It's weird that was the first one I did. That's literally the first script I wrote. Because now when I try to write, I don't know what happens. It always veers off into horror. Like, I have an idea, and even if it's not a horror idea, like I'll write, and then I'm like, oh, what if this person died or something? I mean, maybe it's because I watch horror constantly. But I do have a comedy. It's like this high school heist movie comedy that I adapted from somebody else that I really hope could get made at some point, which has nothing to do with horror. But other than that, I don't know. I guess horror is just what I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, eventually I would like to branch out. But if I only ever made another horror movie, then I'd still be fine.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that as well.
Yeah.
So nothing you can tell me about the current project, huh?
Not really. Another monster-ish movie.
Bigfoot?
No. I can say no to that. Yeah. Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah.
So who are like some of your favorite actors or actresses in any genre, horror or otherwise?
Yeah. I always say I think my all-time favorite is Cillian Murphy. I just think he's so amazing, and I mean, obviously, 28 Days Later, but I'm a huge Peaky Blinders fan, and I think he's just insanely talented. Like for me, I think especially with acting, just especially growing up doing theater, I'm very kind of twitchy sometimes, and I move a little too much for film, and that's something I try really hard when I'm shooting to remember and be like, stop moving. And with somebody like Cillian Murphy, it's just like I don't know what he does. He'll just like he could be staring like at a fly, and there's just so much going on in his eyes, and he's just not moving, and he's saying everything. And I think he's so amazing with that. And he does so tiny and then amazing, whatever. And people think it's dumb, but I actually really like Kristen Stewart. Not from Twilight. I'm sorry, not from Twilight, but she's done so many little indie movies, indie as in big budget indie, but like this one, Clouds of Saint Maria or something, where she's like this assistant to this like kind of diva actress, and it was just this long drama, which I thought was amazing. And I like for the opposite reason, because she is twitchy and weird, and for some reason makes that work. So yeah.
Well, if you had to, I'm sure you had more of like a personal connection with Monstrous, but so I'm sure you have more of a preference for that. But if you were to like go back and there's anything you'd want to adjust about or things you wish you would have done that maybe didn't make it through or something like that?
For Monsters?
Monstrous or Dawn of the Beast, if there's.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I can barely like watch movies I've acted in anyway. Like it freaks me out watching myself, and I know you have to get better and everything. But for Monsters, I think, I mean, there's a million, it's hard to say because there are a million different things I could have done differently going back. And I guess I wish we had the resources we had for the last movie during that, like even just down to the camera, and just effects and everything. And obviously I know a lot of people were expecting more Bigfoot in that one. And I guess if I literally could change anything, it would be advertising, but you know, we have no control over that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
It's just, some of those reviews you see, they blame like either the writer entirely or the director, but
Right.
whereas you can see in the first like 5-10 minutes, it's not just like a monster creature feature or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I thought you weren't in charge of the marketing, yet they apply everything
Yeah.
to you, which pissed me off. So
Yeah, it's hard. I just, you know, I think once you get to a certain point, maybe you start having more control over things, but
yeah.
accepted it.
Yeah. But again, I just gotta applaud you. I cared both about Sylvia and Lily.
Oh, great. That's always my biggest thing. I'm like, as long as they care a little bit, I'm good.
And even in Dawn of the Beast,
Mhm.
your male co-star, he had a little character arc himself. He developed through the movie,
Mhm.
so that's still more than some more well-known movies would have.
Yeah.
So, and I gotta ask a little like spoilery thing here. I'm sure, hopefully, people have watched this far. Like what?
It's been a few weeks, yeah.
Was there ever a version where Lily survived?
Okay, yeah. So initially, I think we only had a couple weeks to get this one done, the script. But initially, we had talked about maybe Lily. I'm just gonna spoil. I don't care. Maybe Lily in this version of the script had, you know, her arm ripped off or something, and it could have ended with her re-showing up somehow, and then them kind of being in the car on the road and just kind of leaving it a little more open-ended. But I don't know. I think it was just I'm not sure why we even ended that way. It's like, I think it was just another death, like as cheap as that is. But obviously, I wanted her to live, and it's hard because I get attached to characters too, and like her, obviously, I had a strong attachment to, and I'm like, no, she's this badass, blah blah blah. Like I think she should live, but it's just hard to know when you're writing if that's just because you're connected to this part you're going to play. And I was trying really hard to be unbiased, which maybe turned around and bit me in the ass. Too unbiased. But yeah, obviously Adrian Burke, who played the lead, he killed it, I think. So at least someone does.
It's like I didn't know if you were trying to swerve it from like this final girl sort of thing. Oh wait, no, she gets picked off anyway or something.
Yeah, I mean, the final girl thing is interesting, so I don't even know how to feel about that. I'm kind of for it, but I big into feminism. I went to an all women's college and everything, but yeah, I guess it's a little bit turning it on its head. But I mean, I think it was good. She did kind of fulfill her arc. She sort of redeemed herself and she learned to care about somebody else. Blah blah blah. But yeah.
I mean, when you use those terms, it kind of puts them in a box.
Yeah.
I apologize for describing it that way, but
oh no, I totally get it.
that's like, oh, they're hiding behind the tree, then she gets pulled out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, what? Come on.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
God. Those words were very hard to just even us getting pulled out from behind the tree. It was like the most uneven land I've ever walked on in my life. So even just those quick moments of getting pulled, it was like I forget who was in the monster suit at that point, but just pull, and I think we both just completely spill like on the twigs and everything.
What was it, like an injury on like her neck, shoulder area?
It was supposed to be the arm getting ripped off, so it was kind of just all that. And I think this one's hard because it was definitely colored very dark, and on some screens you can see a lot more, and mine I see a lot less, so maybe yours too, which is a bummer, so you can't really see what's going on, but if you can, it's very gnarly looking.
I was hoping like she was still alive and Bigfoot would have carried her out of the woods and placed her on the car or something.
I know. Would have been cool too. We kind of that whole ending with Everett's character was actually added in on set. We had it was a way simpler, and I actually don't even remember what the original one was, but I think we were all, because when we do these, it's so low budget, we're usually just all staying together at an Airbnb and talking. So I think it was after a long shoot day, we were all hanging out, and I forget whose idea it was, but that just came up on set, and we kind of just shot the ending as it is now as an alternate ending because we weren't sure what we could do with effects because there's a beheading and everything, and we're like, that's kind of a big thing to just add last minute. And I think what happened was we quickly shot a version with just a green screen behind the actor, and then I think Bruce went back like a week later after Jared made a whole fake head, and then that ended up not working, so then we went back to a CGI version. It was fun.
I mean, it worked. I mean, I kept expecting Bigfoot to show back up and just like knock his head off or something, but I think it was appropriate that ended with Chris being the one to do it himself.
Right, exactly.
No one else intervening.
Finally sticking up for himself.
Yeah. And I think it's next month Dawn of the Beast comes out on DVD.
I believe so, yeah. I should know the exact date. I believe it's next month.
I think it's around like the 15th or 18th or something like that.
Awesome.
But yeah, I pre-ordered it.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I think it was pre-order Walmart or something like that. But,
yeah, I know it'll be Walmart for sure.
And then I also ordered a copy of Monstrous on DVD as well.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a physical media guy. I mean, digital is great, but there can be things that go wrong with it. I'm a collector, so I kind of want to have I have like a big horror shelf to my left, like right over here.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm in LA now and I did not take the majority of my DVDs with me. And I don't even have a DVD player now with my laptop. I need to get one of the external ones, but I still want the DVDs. I'm like, no. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for doing this. It
Of course.
meant the world to me. Still kind of blown away that you even responded, let alone agreed to it. So,
Of course. I saw it. It was so sweet. And actually, one of my friends, she is the girlfriend of our special effects guy. She even texted me about it. She was like, "Oh my God, you're gonna do an interview with? I like his stuff." Like, so she even knew about you too. So,
just my little channel, it appreciates you.
yeah. Of course. Thank you.
Like I said, I love your work on screen and behind the camera. I adore you, so please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm trying.
I know it's crazy times right now, but
yeah, things are slowly starting to shoot again, which is nice.
yeah. Thank you again, and I want to keep you all night, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you. No, this was a lot of fun, and I thank you for reaching out and everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you'll probably see me posting about you periodically, and
cool. I'll just be embarrassed and like it. I feel bad. Like I never know what to say, so I'm like, thanks.
check in once in a while to make sure Squatch didn't get you or something. So
yeah.
just to make sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Or aliens or whatever's happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great rest of your night.
All right, you too. Thanks again, man.
Thanks, Anna.
Bye.